The Toyota is an event with a difference. 32 years of excellence in the shape of match play. To win your match against the world's finest, you have to be prepared to produce something pretty special. A chip-in birdie at the third sparked a brilliant South African comeback. Now, steady pars in stroke play will always pay good dividends, but to escape with just a half in match play sometimes requires the deepest concentration, twinned with the most delicate of touches.
A loss in match play always seems harder to take, and the feeling is worse when you're 6 up at halfway. Trouble with the bunker at 18. All square with 1 to play.
What a great shot.
But despite a marvellous recovery, a closing birdie gave Els a 66, and that was far too good for Steve Stricker. Vijay Singh gave Steve Jones, the US Open champion, a right good hammering. A 9-8 victory, and Singh had plenty to smile about.
Not the largest victory in Toyota history. Sing on song, he had the rhythm, he called the tune. His opponent had the blues. Steve Jones, the victim of a 9-8 hammering. However, this year's US Open champion will be back to fight another day. Today's semi-final lineup looks like this. Defending champion Ernie Els takes on the final major winner of 1996, Texan Mark Brooks. In Fijian language, Vijay means victory. To progress to tomorrow's final, Singh will have to dispose of the current Open champion, Tom Lehman. 6 down and 16 to play yesterday. With 4 holes left, he was just 1 down. Stricker's lead was about to vanish after that stunning 7-iron. All square after a 3, and that number is very much on the mind of Ernie. The South African is bidding to become the first player to win this championship for the 3rd consecutive year. The match contested in great spirit, and the scenes that followed on the home green were more than a touch heartwarming. Coming up, the semi-finals, 36 holes of match play over the famous West Course at Wentworth. Thankfully today restored to its former glory after a day of rain, rain and more rain. The October sun shines down on the immaculately prepared fairways, and the Burma Road looking handsome dressed in its autumnal jacket. We're just 20 miles southwest of the City of London. Birmingham and Bristol 100 miles to the north and west respectively. The 73-year-old course sits snugly on the borders of Surrey and Berkshire. But before we move to the live action, let's take a look at the closing stages of the first 18 holes.
After 14 holes, 4 up for Ernie Els. Tom Lehman is 2 up after 13 holes on Vijay Singh. Both players out in 33. Lehman making birdies at 10 and 11, and Vijay Singh getting 1 back at the 12th.
We join the action at the par 3 14th and the tee shot of Tom Lehman. Pin front left yesterday. It's in a very different position today. Up there on the top level, but tucked away to the left once again, and the back bunker certainly coming into play. Good shot from Lehman, and a good match to watch this. There's been some great scoring.
Singh going with a 5-iron. Beautifully controlled, the pin just 5 yards up the little tier. It's going to be very precise.
Mark Brooks up against it, 39 to the turn, bogeys at 7, 8 and 9. And the consistent play of Ernie Els quite sufficient at the moment. Need to drive down the left-hand side of 15 today to try and get a good look at the flag. Both players push the tee shot slightly. And just an 8-iron for Els, another powerful drive. And both players shying over there to the front left corner of the green. Not too bad because they're putting up the hill from there.
Putting down the hill at the 14th, Lehman for his 2. The greens as yesterday in beautiful condition. Just running under 10 feet on the stint meter. Just running out of pace, hit that one a little bit firmer. So it's a half in 3s.
15th and Els to play his 3rd shot first with the putter. Big swing from the right, good looking putt. Well, that's rubbing salt into the wound, that. Cracking 3 from Els.
Brooks needs something to happen. Now would be a very good time. He knows the line. Yeah, very fine putter, but 5 up for Ernie Els. Different story to yesterday.
Yes, both players having to go the full distance to put their semi-final places. Driver Vijay Singh at 15 in perfect position. Try to cut in a 6-iron. And another stunning approach shot from the Fijian. Beautiful shot.
Lehman setting up for a bit of a cut. Trying to hold the ball into this slope. Just leaving the club face open, and the ball sometimes plugs in there.
Having a look at the line of the divot to try and check the swing line. We'll go to the 16th. Tee shot of Brooks just off the fairway. That's his 2nd, 3/4 7-iron. And a little unfortunate coming from the rough. That pulled up fairly quickly. 15-mile-an-hour southwesterly wind, so these last few holes certainly a little shorter than they were the first 2 days.
Pin cut towards the back left today. And both players come a little shy, not quite judging the breeze. Always difficult to judge the wind on this golf course. Swirls around in the trees.
Lehman's ball didn't plug, fortunately for him. Played it well, but it's downhill and very quick from there. And that's just about as close as he could have got it. Hasn't lost his turn. Such was the quality of the 2nd shot of Vijay Singh.
Chance for a 3 for Brooks. And a beautifully judged, well-weighted putt, giving every chance of going in the hole this time.
3 inches left up the hill. And he knew it was right as soon as it left the putter. And up goes the marker of Vijay Singh, so he wins the 15th with a conceded 3 to the 5 of Tom Lehman. And Lehman's lead now cut to just 1. 21 holes left of this match, and well, it's been nip and tuck all the way, so every chance that it could go right to the death.
Just wandering off, asking for halves. And very generously, both of them conceding their putts.
Yes, I wouldn't mind playing a 4-ball with them on a Saturday morning. That was a good 3.5 feet or so. And we move to the middle of the 16th, just off the edge of the fairway. Lehman. Nice long tee shot, took the bunker out of play.
Extremely accurate iron shot. It's a lot of greens and regulations as Tom Lehman. So we also have the light rough. It's slightly more difficult to control.
Mark Brooks second to the 17th. Going with a 3-wood, and they have left that a fraction to the right, and it is only a fraction. But down there in the dell, and there's some thick rough down there, and the pin situated on the front right-hand corner.
He thinks he can reach the par 5, going with a 2-iron, 235 yards. Ball a little bit below his feet.
Off the shoulder of one of the spectators and dangerously near the out of bounds. Well, let's hope the spectator's okay as we drift back to the lovely setting at the 16th.
And that was for a half, and hasn't missed too many of those this season. And the wind just buffeting him as he was putting it.
Yes, you can see one or two of the leaves bouncing around the green there. But not often you see that as we go forward to 17, the third of Els. Beautifully played. Look at the way the face is kept open there, looking at the flag. And that's a gorgeous little shot. Brilliant touch, exquisitely played, and a certain 4 for the South African.
Shot of Mark Brooks, his third. Pushed a lot of shots this morning. Doesn't seem to be releasing the club through the ball very well. But his short game hasn't left him.
Two great golf shots there, and both very differently played. Brooks having to get the ball up quicker than Els. Els using the grain to help him.
Trying to chase a 3-wood onto this 17th and get snagged up in the long grass down the right-hand side. Well in range today for these hitters, long hitters of the ball, both VJ and Lehman.
Not quite as far as Mark Brooks, and an awkward shot there for VJ on the downslope, coming downwind.
Fortunately between the bunkers at the 18th. Ernie's second to the par 5. A little fortunate there, missing the big beech tree and coming up short of the bunker.
.219 yards to go to the flag for Mark Brooks. Club that he's used frequently since he came to Wentworth, a 6-wood. And that coming up some, well, 45, 50 yards short of the putting surface.
Awkward little shot this, you have to carry it all the way to the green, little bank in front of them. Coming out the rough and down the breeze.
Nearly very good. Again, plenty of elevation from Singh. And these shots, well, they were a couple of feet away from being absolutely stone dead. To the 18th.
Was a good short iron player, Mark Brooks. Judged absolute perfection. I remember Bill Rogers playing one like that when he won the tournament a few years ago.
Yes, almost identical to that. Now Els from an awkward position on the right.
Such a delightful touch around the greens. Let's talk about the strength of his game, but he has a beautiful touch around with his little pitches. A chance for Singh. Gone back to the conventional putt of the last few weeks, and it's been operating very, very well.
And there'll be no change there at the 17th. You mentioned Bill Rogers earlier. There was a 14-year gap between Bill's win and Corey Pavin, so the Americans there had quite a gap in this championship. And of course they dominated it in the early years with the likes of Nicklaus and Palmer, and of course Tom Weiskopf winning back in 1972.
Els into the centre of the cup, down the hill, confidently hold. It's been that sort of morning for Mark Brooks. So they're going to lunch. Brooks is 6 down, a 235 yards, a 1 iron for Lehman, and that's a sizzler. And such a lovely sound off the club face, and a little unlucky that didn't actually run a little bit further up the green. A really world-class shot.
Normally a 3 iron for Singh, but on the downslope, so the ball travelling a little lower off the club face. 4 iron in there, and very unfortunate for that to pull up so quickly. But 2 lovely second shots there.
Big swing from right to left is for an eagle 3. So he's left that little one, little feverish one that Mark Brooks just missed. Eagle 3 for Lehman. Is to go 1 up at lunch. Now out in 33, back in 35, rounding a very approximate 68. So 4 under par, very good, consistent golf from him.
Lovely putt from Vijay Singh, and that's been a very fine 18 holes. And there's the first handshake of the day, all square after 18 in the second semi-final, but the defending champion Ernie Els having it very much his own way against the US PGA champion Mark Brooks. Els at 6 up after just 18 holes. Well, this championship, of course, has a very rich history, so let's take time out and go back 32 years to the inaugural event.
Back in 1964, Arnold Palmer, then the world's most charismatic and thrilling of golfers, had defeated Englishman Neil Coles 2-1 in the final to become the first world match play champion. Palmer's victory was fitting, being golf's accepted superstar, and his presence ensured the championship's prestige and importance. The event was typical of the 60s, confident, dynamic, and successful, and it helped usher in a new style in golf. Red carpet treatment all the way, suites at the Savoy, limousines for the players. This was special. Those early years were dominated by Palmer and Gary Player. In 1965, Player reached the final after an amazing escape against Tony Lima. 7 down at one stage, he clawed his way back to win at the first extra hole. His opponent in the final was Peter Thomson, who had this putt to keep the match alive. It wasn't to be, and Player picked up the first of his victories, a 3-2 winner against Thomson. In 1966, Player was in the final again and beat Jack Nicklaus surprisingly easily by 6 and 4. 1967 saw Palmer back in the finals. This is his fairway shot at the 13th.
Oh, yes, a magnificent shot from Palmer. One of many on the day. Palmer's golf was breathtaking, but he was matched all the way by the steady play of Peter Thomson. Less spectacular, but nevertheless brilliant. Here at the 17th, Palmer had this putt for victory. And just wiggles out on the right side, so close. But Palmer, 1 up, 1 to play, not over yet.
But Palmer's victory wasn't long in coming, as moments later, on the 18th, Thomson's courageous struggle came to an end as he conceded defeat.
And so victory for the second time goes to Arnold Palmer. A memorable victory because the golf was of a very high quality from both players.
Memorable, but sad, as it proved to be his last. But he had shown himself to be one of the world's finest match-play golfers. 68 was Gary Player's third success. Here he is, pitching up to the 18th in his final against Bob Charles.
Player 1 up and 1 to play. A funny little stabbing chip running up this final green. Well, he'd like to have got it a bit closer, but this trusty old putter, will it work yet again? Just right of centre it must be, and he didn't hit it hard enough, and that's very uncharacteristic. A very uncharacteristic shot from Player. Now Bob Charles. One of the greatest of putters. Needs this for a birdie 4 to stay alive. And he's overdone it.
So, Gary Player wins once again, beating Bob Charles 1 up.
You just marvel at the wonder of Wentworth and the leaves all these years ago, as they do in autumn, coming tumbling down on the greens. So the first 5 years dominated by Arnold Palmer and Gary Player, and some great golf being played there. Player was 20 under par when he won in 1966, Palmer 18 under a year later. But in 1969, well, we were to have a different winner, the third winner of the World Match Play.
In 1969, Charles did win, becoming the first to break the Player-Palmer stranglehold upon the championship. After 6 years, the championship had become established. Entering the 70s, it had become a social as well as a golfing event. The match play had captured the hearts and imagination of the golfing public, and thousands flocked each year to see the golfing giants do battle. Charles's victory had reflected the inevitable passing of time and changing of eras. Older, established names were fading, monochrome stars replaced by colourful newcomers. Player still remained a reminder of an earlier age. But the new names who were preparing to dominate the 70s were just as eager, just as competitive, and above all, just as determined to win. And the two finalists in 1970 exemplified that to the full. Lee Trevino, one of the greatest golfers of the day, and Jack Nicklaus, perhaps the greatest golfer ever. The final was tremendous, an all-time classic that has entered into match play legend. Trevino, behind almost all day in the face of Nicklaus's blistering golf, refused to lie down and die. Playing some superb golf, he clawed his way back from 5 down with 9 to play to 1 down with 4 holes left. But Nicklaus, his nerve holding, hammered back. And when they reached the 35th, Trevino had to sink this long putt to have any sort of chance.
Well, he's given it a good run at the hole, and not a million miles away, but that's that. And I must say, that's one of the finest games it's been my privilege to watch. Super stuff.
Fine indeed. And Jack was back in the final next year, but in a replay of 66, he was comfortably beaten by the man in black, Gary Player, his fourth success. 1972 saw the crowd's patriotic hopes take an upturn when two of Britain's representatives appeared in the semi-finals. Expectation ran high. Peter Oosterhuis struggled bravely, but found those expectations too much to bear and never really got into his match. But for Tony Jacklin, Britain's other performer, fate was cruel. The result, a tragedy. Despite a staggering 9 under par 63 in the afternoon round, he almost unbelievably lost at the 36th hole, a heart-rending defeat. His conqueror? The master magician himself, Lee Trevino, who magnificently maintained his poise in the face of Jacklin's explosive charge and scored 2 67s, a memorable 10 under par for the day. It was heady, brilliant golf. But not surprisingly, Trevino suffered a reaction and couldn't reproduce such genius the next day in the final. And it was Oosterhuis's victor, the tall American Tom Weiskopf, who took the title. Playing steady, solid golf, he was a comfortable winner by 4 and 3. In 1973, the final was a tense struggle between the Australian Graham Marsh and Gary Player, who, making his 5th final appearance, faced imminent defeat.
So this putt for the match. Must keep it to the right. No, always too low. No amount of body English will squeeze that one in. So that's as close as you can get without being the champion, I suppose. Gary Player with, well, a putt of no more than 4.5 feet for a birdie 4 to take the match into extra holes. Oh, he's on the move. He thinks it's short. Well, who says there isn't a bit of good fortune in golf?
So off they went back into the country. Player finally winning at the 40th, the longest final on record.
We were moving into an era where America was consistently producing the finest golfers in the world, and they were dominating the major championships. Palmer, Nicklaus and Weiskopf, along with Trevino, were ably backed up by a new influx of talent. In 1974, it was once again America to the fore.
Player, 1 down, 6 to play. In a moment you'll see the ball come out against the background of trees. There it goes, going up the left-hand side of the green. Could come off the bank. That could end up very nicely for Player. Yes, used the slopes beautifully. Down she comes to within, 12 feet or so of the hole. Great shot. Now it's Ewen's turn. 1 up. First visit here. What a neat, competent player he is. Lovely, simple swing. Second shot from the perfect position, dead center of the fairway. Sailing up and down and coming in nicely. And you can see just a little bit further away than Player. Ewen to putt first for a birdie 3. Well, nearly, very nearly. Player has a chance to square the match. Ewen's putt was conceded, and Player hold this. Just left of centre is the line. Well, he certainly hit it hard enough. My word, he's gone by. Well, there's an interesting thing here because the referee announced the hole halved in 4. Ewen did not or had not conceded. Player steps up to hold this for a half, and a nervy, twitchy one, and that really was a turn-up for the book for Hale Irwin. Player 2 down with 5 to play, and that'll test even Player's great powers of recovery.
And so it proves. And by the 17th, player needs this putt to stay alive.
No, just wanders offline. Player concedes, and he loses. But well done, Hale Irwin.
Well done indeed. And when Irwin wins again...
Well, we'll continue with the action here at Wentworth in 1996. We'll maybe have a look back at some more history a little later on in the afternoon. But Ernie Els, after 18 holes, 6 up on Mark Brooks, and Vijay Singh and Tom Lehman with nothing in it. Now we're on the second tee. That's the tee shot of Mark Brooks. He's already lost the first hole, so he's now 7 down and in real trouble there. He's in the front bunker, but back on the first green, the second semi-final, and that's the third of Tom Lehman.
Just judging the pace, and it's all downhill there to the front of the green.
Brooks lost the second hole as well, so he's now 8 down and pushed his drive at the third. Didn't get a lie to reach the green in 2. And that's come up a little short, and Ernie Els perfectly placed in the middle of the third fairway. Brooks managed to make a marvellous 4 at the third, so no change there at 8 down still. But Brooks pushed his second at the fourth. Els in the bunker, 2 to get down from there. So the South Africans golf beginning to look a little ragged. This is tee shot to the 5th, and that's over to the left, the right as we look. And there's a bunker over there, and Els has found it.
Setting up for a draw, the pin cut down the right-hand side, difficult to get close to. And he finds the other bunker.
The danger of being 8 down, you have to try and chase and make birdies, whereas else pars will be good enough.
Quality plus. That was a marvellous shot, just nipping the ball up and then let it release to the hole.
Second of Brooks, lying nicely, beautifully played also, and that's 2 wonderful recovery shots. The tee shot's forgettable, the second shot's quite superb. So 1/2 and 3 there. We'll go back to the 5th tee, the tee shot of Vijay Singh. Gorgeous shot from Singh. Match still all square. Should Singh manage to hold that. This earlier was the tee shot of Lehman. But just about as good. Lehman 3-putting the first, giving Singh the advantage. Now Singh for a 2.
Just missing on the low side. So a chance for Tom Lehman to square the match up the hill. There's no mistake at all. So this one extremely close, unlike the opening match where Els holds a big advantage.
Forward to the top match, and Brooks fighting for survival. And more of these, the order of the day. So after 7 holes, Els still 8 up. And in that final match, well, we thought it would go all the way, and every chance it would do. Early exchange between Singh and Lehman at the very first hole. And that lovely birdie from Lehman getting the match back to all square at the 5th. They've since parred the 6th hole, so still all square there. But Els 8 up and just 11 holes left to play.
Very dangerous pin position in the back left-hand corner of this green. And the wind picking up this afternoon, just a fraction. Just coming out of the rough, and the ball releasing gradually towards the hole.
In the back of your mind too, the last thing you want is to have the heaviest defeat. So Brooks not only fighting for survival, but also for a little bit of pride as well.
He's been struggling all day to release the club through the ball, even a lot of shots out to the right. Finished fairly quickly this morning, so had a good full hour break between the rounds. Sometimes there's a good bit less.
Beautifully struck putt from Els. He's not going to have the highest winning margin. That went to Tom Watson in 1978 when he beat Dale Hayes of South Africa by 11 and 9. So Brooks has avoided that embarrassment.
Mark Hansel, who caddies for Mark Brooks, having a helping hand with his putt. Well, he needs to start making one or two of these if he's going to make any sort of a match of this one today. Now would be a good time to start.
Many superb holes at Wentworth, and you picked out 2 or 3 holes the other day, and this 8th amongst your favourites, Ken.
Yes, it's often an iron from the tee, very much a positional tee shot, but to an awkward green. There's water at the front of it and to the left of it. It's got this green that slopes a lot from right to left, and this is a pretty quick putt, one that you can't really afford to charge.
Strange game when you desperately need 1 or 2 to go in. They always seem to just slip by him. Els is 4 conceded, so no change there. He's 8 up and 10 holes to play. Confirmation of that, Singh and Lehman, as I said earlier, parred the 6th hole. They're now on the par 4 7th, which is a gentle dog leg from left to right, downhill off the tee. Many of the players there playing a 2-iron and nothing much more than a 9-iron left with the pin at the front today. Front right corner, Lehman's found the green in 2, and this to go 1 up. And the American makes a move at just the right time in the second 18 holes. Lovely 3 from Lehman there. And the scoring continues in this match. Terrific stuff. Here's the 9th.
A wonderful par 4. 450 yards. The fairway slopes a good bit from left to right. No bunkers from the tee, often difficult to line up. The wind generally comes a bit off the left, so you have to draw your tee shot. It's played then to this green set between these 2 bunkers. Often you can't see the bottom of the flag, and the flag today cut on 11, just 3 from the right hand side, right on our tour's limit. 2.5 metres is the customary distance as near as the flag can be cut to the edge of the green. So it brings that right hand bunker into play.
Surprised to see the pins cut in some of the places they are today. They're a little bit on the severe side, I feel.
Yes, it's made scoring a little bit higher than it is customary in this championship, because match play golf does lend itself to attacking play, but when the pins are cut so close to the edge of the green, you have to always err a little bit towards the centre of the putting surface.
Now, you talked about your enjoyment for the 8th, but with the old sausage sandwich hut on the right there, Ken, that's high on your list of priorities.
I'm going to say it must be one of your favourites, Ewen. But they used to cost 50p, now they're about £2.50, so I tend to keep walking.
Els starting it down the left-hand side, trying to fade it back into the middle of the fairway. And he's overcooked it a fraction. There's a little ditch down there. Water hazard that goes down towards the 8th and then joins up with 1 or 2 humps and hollows across the middle of the 8th fairway, so maybe a problem there for Els. I wonder what was going through Ernie Els's mind after 18 holes and sitting in the clubhouse at lunchtime. 6 down yesterday, came back from the dead in 6 up today.
Well, I know he had a little bit of a chicken salad for lunch. I don't know whether that had any bearing on it.
Now, he's lost a lot of shots right by being too much in the inside on the way down, the right shoulder coming up. And that's only a fraction right, and to be fair, that's a good position to come in from, because the ground does slope a little bit from left to right. But the difference in this match, I think, the length of the course today, after the rain yesterday, 7 times Brooks needed wood for his second shot in the morning round.
A positional tee shot for Tom Lehman. Some new trees planted up on the right-hand side. The fairway slopes a lot from right to left, and there's a big beech tree that overhangs there, so you can actually find the fairway, and that can be well in your way driving down the left-hand side. But that's A1 perfect. A long hand for VJ.
Yes, deciding on the 2-iron, one coming from the right, and he'll be trying to cut it against that to hold its line. And because of that, quite a bit shorter. That's okay. And over on the left side, and both players will have a good look at it from the right side of the fairway.
Behind that sallow bush is where Ernie Els is. There's a little lateral water hazard ditch down there. It tends to be a bit wet, and there's also some patches of heather.
Well, that's the right way to play it, down the middle of the fairway, and railway all the way along the left-hand side. With Els edging towards that right-hand bunker, and just dipping down into the trees. If he has a clear lie, then he'll probably be okay, because the second shot's long enough for him to move the ball 10 or 20 yards in the air.
He's dead out watching him again today. Haven't seen his girlfriend Liesl, but I know she's around somewhere.
Yes, they've set up home now over in Florida by the magnificent Lake Nona course, which hosted the World Cup back in 1992. America successful there, 11 couples, the start of a 4-year run. 93 it was actually, 92 in La Moraleja, and then we went over to Dorado Beach in Puerto Rico, and last year for the first time out to China, Mission Hills, designed by Jack Nicklaus. But no 11 couples in the World Cup this year. It will be Tom Lehman, and Steve Jones. Just remembered that in time. Now the second of Sing at the 8th.
Already set up. A new set of irons he's got out, and he's been using the last 3 weeks. Takes a little bit of getting used to. Come over the top of that one. Cleared the hazard. Just over that little bank there. The water hazard sticks out, but a devilish little chip up a bank, and has got the good fortune of being into the breeze.
That's the view of Mark Brooks' second at the 9th. And they want to start this on the television town, maybe even a fraction left of that, because he's got a 3-wood. He's over 200 yards to the front of the green.
Big high floating fade with a 3-wood. And that was a beauty. Bill Rogers would have been absolutely chuffed with that one. A lot of marvellous wooden shots when he was victorious here.
Lehman's second at the 8th. Does play these iron shots so beautifully. Down on the inside, high hands on the way through. And then sending that over the top of the flag. Just trickles off the green, but he'll be able to get the putter on it from there and Sing in a little bit of trouble. Lehman currently 1 up.
Winner of our Open Championship, runner-up in the US Open as well. This fellow was victorious in the 94 Championship over there. Yeah, he's been a bit fortunate.
Stopped by the gallery, otherwise that would have trundled its way into the silver birches, but they like it at that end. And look at that, in from the left, and golf of the very highest quality. Two superb shots in there at the difficult par 4 ninth. And the door slightly ajar for Mark Brooks, but very firmly closed by that second shot of Ernie Els. Still has a lot of golf to play. Towards the end of 1996, he'll be down at Vale, pretty close to his home, outside Cape Town, Stellenbosch region, the venue for the 1996 World Cup, and then he goes on to Sun City, where he'll try and take the $1 Million Challenge. Beautiful golf shot here. Look at the toe line. You see how far left that is? And the club at the top of the swing pointing right down exactly the same line. Now from there he just draws the club across the ball a little bit, get the ball running from heel to toe. You see where it starts there on the left corner of the green, and it hardly ever flinched until it lost power. The lie of the land did the rest, and Ernie Els left with a 9-foot putt for a birdie at the 9th. Now we've seen some great shots already, notably Els's second to 15, the third at the last of Steve Stricker yesterday, and even back to the first day, Mickelson's third at 18. But these two shots, quite splendid, Ken.
Beautifully controlled, and not an easy pin to attack. Of course, Mark Brooks has to attack now, being 8 down, and he can play a little bit more conservatively.
A look from 170 yards short of the 8th green, moving in over the water, and that water you'll see wanders all the way around the left-hand side. Singh taking enough club to take it out of play, but a delicate little third shot here from the semi-rough, and the only thing in his favour, uphill and into the wind.
Can't play it much better than that, left it below the hole. Paul Fusco, his caddy there, been with him for the last 3 seasons.
Well, there's very little to choose from here. Julien Zulueta, the match referee, has already had a good look at them and decided it's Els to play first. Mike Swatton is the official observer today. And in the second match, Michael Eriksson, who will actually referee the final.
That's his first birdie of the afternoon round to be out in 34.
And Brooks now left with a putt to save himself going Dormy 9. 8th and Lemon from just off the back edge. As he hit it, not quite had the line, so Singh will have a putt to half the hole there from around 3 feet. Good chip shot he played.
Played in a very nice spirit this match. Conventional putting action, keeping the putter face low to the ground. This for a half, and this to remain just 8 down.
Well, when you saw the Els tee shot wander off to the right and Brooks managing to keep his in play, the quality of the second shot would have thought that that would have been 7. But it is 9 up and 9 to play, and every chance that Els could start the long walk in from the 10th.
Also, Lehman remains 1 up.
Good scoring this afternoon from these two. The best bowlers 4 under 4s. And that's the first hole of the back 9. Lovely par 3, 10th. Green that slopes a little from left to right as the players play it. Pin, if anything, hidden away on the right side today. There's 1 or 2 overhanging branches there that will obscure the view of the players. So you may well see them go over to the left-hand side of the tee and try and gain access to the flag.
Yes, it is a cracking par, 386 yards. They've cut 1 or 2 of the pine trees down on the right-hand side. They used to cover the right side of the green completely. If you do miss the green on the right, it kicks down into the ditch. There's a bank on the left-hand side that you can use. The pin today just cut 6 yards on a direct line onto the putting surface.
Almost the last rights one would expect for Mark Brooks. Had such a tough day yesterday. Ernie Els, of course, had his own difficulties, especially after the first 18 holes, but came through in splendid fashion in the afternoon. I'm sure all the supporters down there in South Africa would have been delighted to watch that. Joined today by television out there in Indonesia and Malaysia, so good afternoon from Wentworth to you. And we're set, I think, for, well, a pretty good end to these semis. Els looks like he's going to finish it early. The second one very much in doubt.
Playing just under 180 yards. Wind almost directly behind, just a 6-iron. That's exactly where he was aiming. Not toying with that right side of the green. We've had some shorties, people under 5'8" win this tournament in the past. Of course, Gary Player, a marvellous champion here, and Ian Woosnam's won it twice, but I don't think it's going to be Mark Brooks's year.
Two good shots finding the 10th green, and unless Brooks can hold that, Els will have 2 putts for victory. Ninth tee, and by the way, these sausage sandwiches are £3.10. Long time since you were out there, Brownie.
Yes, it looks like perhaps Tom Lehman's paid a quick visit. It's just to the right of the tee, the sausage hut. There's always very famous and absolutely delicious with a bit of mustard halfway round, particularly if you've done a good first 8 holes.
Lovely tee shot. Just swing the ball beautifully in the air. Saying he uses all of the fairway, and because the fairways are slightly damp, then of course they're much wider for these players. The first bounce not so fierce. And we'll be set for a massive gallery over the last 9 holes, that's for sure. Because if this match finishes here, they'll take the short walk through the woods to join the second semi-final. And I think what that demonstrates, Ken, is the angle of the green. The players are playing across it rather than along it.
Yes, and there's a very narrow portion at the front where it was cut on day 1. It's just about 6 yards wide, and it widens out at the back. It's reasonably generous at the back portion. Very rarely in the PGA Championship was the pin cut any less than 20 paces. Brooks, who's got a good interest in golf course design. After the Open Championship, he went up to Royal Dornoch for a game, one of the classic links courses in Britain. They're not round Nairn. And my buddy next door to me is Ewen Murrey is a member up at the lovely Dornoch, home of Donald Ross, who's designed so many of those great golf courses in America, most notably, of course, Pinehurst number 2.
Skibo Castle, another new golf course up there that had an exhibition match earlier in the year, and it may not be too long before we find a championship there. But here on the 10th at Wentworth, this is Brooks to have a chance of staying alive.
Here's a run very close a few times this afternoon, the ball just not finding the bottom of the cup.
Very high quality field have moved their way into the semi-finals. Els and Singh, Mark Brooks and Tom Lehman, and between them they've won $3.2 million in the US PGA Tour this year. Two putts to go through to the final. And only one was sufficient. Well, it's a hammering for Mark Brooks, and he takes it on the chin. He's a marvellous competitor. He was at 6s and 7s with his driver yesterday, and with course a little longer today with the wind. He was severely penalised for that, but you can't take anything away from Ernie Els. His golf was quite fantastic. Approximately round in 70 this morning in what was quite difficult conditions. Els through to the final and still undefeated since October 1994.
Played 8 and won 8 at this Toyota World Match Play Championship. So we know one player in the final. That's going to be Ernie Els. 3 in a row for him. He's going to be a tough man to beat. Is it going to be this man he meets in the final? Tom Lehman or Vijay Singh?
Well, he's certainly got the edge at the moment, and a little unfortunate there at the 9th, just pulling up on the first bounce. And remember, Vijay Singh in perfect position, a little further up the fairway, same line.
His natural shot, the high fade.
It's amazing, you give them a golf course that's receptive and they can tear it to ribbons. Well, Ernie Els just after victory there off the par 3 10th, long way in, but Toyota have the courtesy cars to take the players and caddies back to the comfort of the majestic clubhouse. Leaves beginning to fall off the trees as we edge towards November, changing colour almost by the day, and sadly after a burst of wind we'll lose all that. We'll have the black sticks for 3 or 4 months, and then all we have to look forward to is spring. But a lot of golf going on all over the world, and the latest US PGA Tour tournament is the Walt Disney World Oldsmobile Golf Classic, and we'll keep you up to date on Tiger Woods' progression there. Yesterday it was quite spectacular. Mark Brooks trying to become the leading money winner. Of course, the Tour Championship comes up next week. That's from the Southern Hills Golf Club in Tulsa, and Phil Mickelson going there for his 5th win of the season. And well, you would have to think that Mickelson will be their player of the year, but I mentioned the Walt Disney there. Tiger Woods 63 yesterday, and just 2 off the pace, Ken, at the halfway stage.
Yes, and currently number 34 on the money list, and the top 30 make it to that Tour Championship, so a good week here could put him in there, and he's certainly up amongst it, just 2 strokes behind the leader.
1 or 2 players looking to maintain their card. Frank Licklighter and Robert Games, who won back-to-back events in 1991. 66-66 for Robert, and at 12 under par he's also tied with Woods 2 off the pace. 1 or 2 good names in there too. Larry Nelson, former US PGA champion.
Yes, always quality fields on the US Tour. This is one of the real gems. He's improved consistently over the years. Tom Lehman just running that one up to the whole side. Currently number 4 on their money list. Number 3, sorry. $1.2 million he's stashed away this season. Interesting decision by Lee Jensen. He's currently number 30 on the US money list, but not playing this week. He's out in Japan with Nick Faldo playing in the Bridgestone tournament. Faldo, the only major title holder not here this week.
Yes, Faldo successful by 1 hole in the final back in 1989 when he was 38 under par for the week, and he went on to repeat that victory in 1992, beating Jeff Sluman by 8 and 7. But just 1 hole in this match. See if Vijay Singh can level it up.
As Els was moments ago, that to be out in a 1 under 34.
Yes, Sluman with a couple of birdies taking him out in 33, 35 the par out here at Wentworth, 37 back, which includes 3 par 5s, the 12th, the 17th and the 18th. And at the end of the day, the 17th and 18th may have something to say in the result of this match.
One of the very pretty par 3s on the golf course. That front left-hand bunker doesn't really come into play. There is that narrow portion of the green. The green gradually widens as you get to the back. It's always a difficult hole to pick your club on as well. The wind tends to swirl about on the tee. What little bit of breeze there is today is slightly helping the players, but clubbing the difficulty on the 10th.
10 and 8 for Ernie Els, safely through to the final. But the big question is, who is he going to meet in that final? It's anyone's guess at present, as Lehman and Singh enter the final 9 holes. Now there's a player's eye view, and you see how narrow that gap is that Ken was talking about, and much narrower a little early on. That lobbing of these fir trees on the right hand side, giving the player a view of that right hand corner of the green. Lehman tends to draw the iron shots, Singh tends to fade them in, so one would think that the Fijian has a little advantage on this hole.
Very difficult to pick the winner out of these two. Singh is going to have a slight advantage of distance on the par 5s, but Lehman a very accurate iron player.
Top 10 finishes on the US PGA Tour for Tom Lehman this year. Won, of course, our Open Championship. And a couple of seconds back-to-back in the Buick in the US Open.
Teeing up on the left side to get a view of the flag cut on the right.
And he's taking it in over the right-hand side. And that's a very brave shot. It's also a very classy one. One up at this stage, not quite enough to protect.
No, not with playing against a player of this quality. You know he's going to make a few birdies, looking up at the sky just to see which way the clouds are blowing. Also one of the trains going by.
It's the 15-14 to Waterloo, I suspect. Concorde flies over here a little later on in the day, around 6:45. Not too far away from London's Heathrow Airport.
doesn't like it. Let it go to the right, and it seemed to hit something solid. There's a little ditch down there, a water hazard, and a big bank to come up with. A pin cut on the right. I think he's probably got less than a 50-50 chance of saving his par from there. It just depends how it's lying.
It's been a steady rise to stardom for Vijay Singh. He won the Safari Tour Order of Merit in 88 and 89. Victories there in Nigeria, a couple of victories there, Zimbabwe and the Ivory Coast, before he joined the European Tour, where he had 6 victories between 89 and 94. Since then off to America, and he's become a winner there too. Well, the marker's showing the ball of Singh, and if it's exactly there, it's not too bad. Take a look and see if this, or if there's any reason the ball went to the right, and I suspect he may have come out of it a little quickly. Everything looking nice there as the weight moves 70% of it or so onto the right side, and the shoulder turns complete the backswing. Beautiful position there, and the club face lying nicely at 45 degrees. But you'll see here the left hip goes out of the way quite quickly, and what that does is it opens up the shoulders. Quite difficult then to release the club face down the line. Just a straightforward push, but I suspect no more than 3 or 4 yards, and it's difficult to be critical when you're only a small percentage out. And look from behind, you'll see that he's aiming right in the centre of the green, and if you look at the divot, you'll find that Vijay Singh's divot usually points a little to the left. Gorgeous swing there, left arm clear of the chest, and that really is quite perfect. But in the back of the player's mind, when you are trying to move the ball a little from left to right, you see how the club changes line there at the top. There's the left side out of the way, and you see where the shoulders are aiming now. They're a little too open. At that point, the club's on line, and of course that means the club face is looking too straight. It's very difficult to take that apart. There's evidence of the divot going to the left corner of the green, so quite simply hit with a slightly open club face. Very athletic golf swing, Vijay Singh. Hard worker.
Without doubt, one of the hardest workers in the game over the years. Practices for hours and hours. Not quite so much these days, because you get a bit of wear and tear as you get a bit older. 33 years of age now. And you're saying an elegant swing. His boyhood idol was Tom Weiskopf, and no swings come any better than his.
Second time Singh's been in the semi-final, the last in 1994 when he lost to Colin Montgomery, who slipped out of the quarter-final stage this year. A ball on the upslope, so the elevation already built into it. Lovely short, sharp swing. Beautiful recovery.
It was unfortunate it did stop on the bank, giving a slightly easier pitch than perhaps he would have done. Well, Mr. Lehman, generous as ever, has conceded. Let's have another look at this shot. A little bit on the back foot, just trusting the loft of the club. No effort to lift the ball in the air. Bangs the club into the bank, just stabbing it forward. Beautifully controlled. A bit down the shaft as well to just add to the control of the club face.
Similar rise to success for Tom Lehman. He led the Hogan Tour as it was back in 1991, now the Nike Tour. 3 victories that year, and that gave him his full PGA Tour count. Well, he's gone on from there, winning his first event in 1994 in Ohio. Very impressed with the tee shot of Lehman there, because he does find it difficult to fade the ball.
Yes, it was a brave shot to aim the ball just over the right edge of the green and draw it back, but doesn't manage to convert, so he remains at 1 up. Of course, in match play you are allowed to practice before the round and during it, unlike a stroke play event on the tour. No practice putting these days.
Yes, that rule originally brought out to try and speed up play. And it stayed there, but this is the second hole in the back nine. The par 4 11, 376 yards, and not all the players using a driver off the tee here, Ken.
Often a 3-wood, because it just dog legs at 250 yards. The second shot played very much up the hill to a green that slopes quite a lot from back to front, so I often get a ball spinning back on this green. 376 yards, and the pin today cut on 27 centre, right at the back of the green, so it's going to be difficult to get close to it, but you have to actually pitch the ball past the flag and spin it back to the hole. Ewen has 3 clubs in the bag with graphite shafts, 3-wood driver and a 1-iron. This is the 3-wood.
Very impressive the way he holds that finish level. High hands and stares at the ball as it soars its way down towards the fairway. That one just off the right edge, but slightly longer second, but no real problem there.
Could be a slight advantage. Obviously won't get quite so much backspin from there. Now VJ out with the driver. Good setup. Sometimes shoulders don't always necessarily agree with the feet, but that looks pretty good. Aiming down the left-hand side, going for a power fade.
Gorgeous line starting now. He may have taken the edge of the dog leg off, and he has. That's an enormous tee shot. Nothing more than a wedge from there. Pull back towards the back edge of the green where we find where the pin is housed today. 27 yards on from the front edge. And if you've just joined us, confirmation that Els has made his way through to the final with a comfortable win over Mark Brooks. And of course he knows exactly what he has to do there, because he won in 94 and 95. Greg Norman way back in 1986, year in which he won the European Open. And Ian Woosnam successful in 87 when we saw some of the best golf ever at Wentworth. Sandy Lyle had a pretty good week in 88. Nick Faldo the first of 2 victories a year later, and Woosnam securing his second victory in 1990. Good news of Seve Ballesteros. He's back to somewhere near his best form. 3rd in Madrid last week after a final round of 69, and that after a second round of 66. Last American winner, Corey Pavin, before the domination began by Ernie Els. Seniors golf beginning to take off over here in Europe, and they have the first Tournament Players' Championship this week, not too far away from here. The Buckinghamshire Golf Club and Malcolm Gregson, who led the Order of Merit back in 1967 with the princely sum of £4,700, leads by 1 after the first round from American Wally Armstrong. Bill Hardwick, Canadian, who finished so well at the Warwickshire a couple of weeks ago, also tied in second place with Tommy Horton and Gary Player. Seniors Tour, of course, over in the United States, hugely popular. We have the benefit of watching most of these events most weeks. Now just look at the difference in distance between these 2 shots. But as you said there, Ken, coming from the semi-rough a little further back, and may be able to move this one up the green a little rather than firing it all the way beyond the flag, which I suspect Vijay Singh is going to have to do.
Yeah, slightly longer iron, a flatter trajectory, and coming out the light rough.
Yeah, I do.
Wind helping off the left, 150 yards, a little bit up the hill.
Huh? It's too much. It's got to be going this way. Yeah, it's supposed to be more cross than downhill. It's uphill also.
Often so difficult to pick your club here due to the swirling breeze. That's a place you don't want to be. Little green to work with, and it's very, very slick down the hill.
150 and right in between two clubs. I think in the back of his mind he wanted to play an 8. Decided on the easy 7, and with the extra grass around the ball, he just took that little bit of spin off it.
Here's a look at this hole. That's how you'd like to play it, right down the middle and onto the green. VJ's found the left side of the fairway. A bit of casual water over there. He's wandering around to see whether he might be able to get a drop. Just checking out the yardage. Coming off the upslope, there's one thing for certain, there'll be a mighty doormat of a divot fly out here. Just knocking it down, trying to stop the ball spinning back too much.
Difficult after the second of Lehman. It was only a wedge for distance, but very short swing with a 9-iron. See how far he is down the grip there, and the ball settled back a little in the stance. The shoulders a touch open. Very quiet hip action here. You see not quite as much turn as he normally would have, and the left shoulder looking to the left-hand side of the ball. You'll see also on the way through that the through swing is curtailed. It's short. He's trying to drive that through there low. And I got the feeling that Singh should have played the shot of Lehman, and Lehman should have played the shot of Singh.
Yes, very concerned about spinning the ball back too much. See how far the ball is back in his stance. Picks the club up and just drops it on the back of the ball. Leading with the hands, trying to keep the ball low and penetrating flight rather than floating in the air, and needed to carry it some 10 yards further.
Now Lehman left with an extremely difficult shot here, and he's no chance of landing this on the green and keeping it by the whole side. He's going to have to try and get the first bounce in the fringe there, and that's always difficult to do out of clingy rough. Still wet from yesterday's rain. The only way he can get this to stop is lay the face wide open and weaken it as much as possible.
Pretty close as to whose turn it is. Although Singh is on the putting surface, he may well be further from the hole.
I was talking a little earlier of the Player Championship at the Buckinghamshire. Of course, Gary Player lending his name to that, and yet even past the age of 60 now, Player still able to amass hundreds of thousands of dollars on that seniors tour. It's tremendous to watch still, isn't it?
Yes, and he usually comes over for the British Seniors Open, and of course a 5-time winner of this championship. Winner of course in 1965 following Arnold Palmer's victory. A record equalled of course by Seve Ballesteros. Well, I wonder if Ernie Els is going to make it 5. Could make it 5 in a row.
Well, he's certainly well on his way. halfway to that target. Touch aggravated with his second shot, saying after taking on the edge of that dog leg and getting himself into the perfect position, he hasn't really made the most of it.
A slow putt this one, but it's not the one you want to be knocking 4 feet past either.
Nicely done. A couple of feet left, maybe conceded. Maybe just outside the distance. And it is conceded, so Lehman knows what he has to do, and if he can get this within 4 feet, it will be a splendid effort.
A lot depends how the ball is lying. The glove off, face wide open, going to scythe underneath it. The ball's sitting pretty well, so he's got half a chance. Of his 2 chipping styles, he's pretty good at the little lob ones. It's the little chip and runs that he's been working on.
That's the danger. He was trying to catch the last bit of rough there, and well, he just didn't have any shot at all, and that's the penalties for being too long for the second shot.
That'd be interesting to see that one again. I'm not quite sure what he did wrong. Looks like a classic setup position, hands slightly ahead.
Not an awful lot of loft on the club, so you saw what his idea was there. No real wrist break, so it was really just a push forward. Left hand leading into the shot there. Decent connection, but he's missed the first point of target. And that pitching onto the fringe, and of course from there all the way downhill to the front of the green.
A very innocuous looking hole, only 376 yards. Pin in a reasonably generous position, and yeah, we just get out of position from the tee or your second shot. Very difficult to save your par. For a half in 4. Don't come any closer than that. A terrific effort. Seven holes to play and the match all square.
Yes, that set up a nice finale as they go to the first par 5 on the back 9. And the 12th certainly one that's reachable in 2 for these players, but narrow fairway.
Yes, and this one sets up for Tom Lehman's natural draw. 483 yards, very reachable in 2. You must favour the right side, otherwise these trees down the left-hand side come very much into play. A bunker guards the right corner of the putting surface. And the green generally slopes from back to front. Little sort of ridge at the front of it that stretches some 8 or 9 yards onto the green. If you pitch short, it tends to stop there. And in those trees, it was to the left, now to the right, where that van is out of bounds. Very little breeze about. What there is probably slightly into the player's face. And the pin cut on 9, 4 from the right-hand side, so just at the top of the little rise.
Southwest wind just dropping down to 7 or 8 miles an hour, and as you say, they'll feel that from the tee, which is slightly elevated from the fairway. But this green nestled down in a cluster of trees, and the flag there hardly moving at all. 483 yards, and well, a good drive from Singh should lead them a second shot with a 4 or a 5 iron.
One or 2 spots of rain starting to fall.
down the right side, and that makes the second shot a little bit longer. But a hole that sets up nicely for Lehman. He can fire it over that middle right centre tree and use the draw to the shape of the fairway. You see the wind there tugging at the shirt sleeves, and both players down the right. Now that lengthens the hole by around 25 or 30 yards, so they may need something like a 3-iron, maybe even a 2, to try and reach the putting surface. What slope there is at the front of the green is facing them. But a nice part of the course that's all covered in Scotch pines, and the 13th running parallel with that up towards the top left of your screen. From there they head for home. Holes going all the way towards the clubhouse, and the winner here this week will take home £170,000, but more than that, they'll be able to call themselves World Match Play Champion. Third and fourth place will play off tomorrow over 18 holes, a difference of 10,000 there. So Mark Brooks and either Vijay Singh or Tom Lehman will be involved in that. And the second round losers, that's the quarter-finalists. They went out yesterday, but they had the consolation of taking home a cheque for £40,000. Nice event to play in, even the first round losers taking home 30,000. Colin Montgomery has now moved his money earnings to over £750,000, and if he can win the Volvo Masters along with the bonus pool, he'll edge himself through that 7-figure barrier. Quite windy back on the tee, you saw there, Ken, and still nothing at the green. It's quite difficult then to pick the right club for the second shot.
Yeah, very difficult. You've always got to look at the tops of the trees and see which way the clouds are moving, just to pick which direction the breeze is. Gentleman in the front left portion of the picture, Michael Eriksson, the rules official with the match. Kenny's obviously playing a major part in this sort of tournament for club selection, plus it's a tiring old week trying to keep their players concentrating on the job in hand. Andy Martinez and Paul Fusco.
Yes, and at the end of it, 5 or 10% of 170,000, so don't feel too sorry for them, Ken, but they are very important, and especially for the Americans last week at St Andrews in the final of the Alfred Dunhill Cup. 2 rounds there on the Sunday, and then the practice rounds here, and 2 rounds each day. Mark O'Meara, of course, the captain last week, he slipped out after winning the first round, and Steve Stricker sadly leaving Wentworth, not in the semi-finals, but he added his own touch of class to this championship, and I'm sure we'll hear an awful lot more of Steve Stricker as the years progress.
Yeah, just 29 years of age and in the top 5 of the US Money winners list, twice a winner this season. He's got a marvellous all-round game, hits the ball a long way and putts well, so a deadly combination. And a bit like this fellow, a very hard worker at his game, practices morning, noon and night.
Started to play well, Vijay Singh, after the first major of the year, and had 3 top 12 finishes in the US Open, the Open Championship and also the US PGA, when he came so close to joining that elite major club, and has now had 8 top 12 finishes in major championships since 1990. So as I said earlier, it's been a steady progression for Vijay Singh, and the amount of hard work he puts in, he certainly deserves all his success.
Trying for a high cut and just let that one go down the left. And he had a lucky break at the 10th to stay on the bank. He's out of bounds over there, but Vijay, it's okay. Came back towards the golf course.
Well, he's waiting for confirmation of that, and while he waits, Lehman ready to crack his 3-wood at this green, playing a lot longer than we expected. And That's got a bit of a turn in it as well, moving over towards the left corner. And just getting held up on the first bounce, but he'll be happy with that from there. Straight up the hill for the third. And Lehman won't know whether Singh is in trouble or not. There's the couple of trees that border the left-hand side of the green. A little ditch in there, and then some chestnut fencing which is out of bounds. And he came over his second shot at the 8th, but the ball was above his feet then, so there was every reason to expect that was going to happen. But you see where the club's pointing there, it's just a little left of the target, and if he squares the club up to that line of swing, then it's going to be a straight pull. Starting a little further left than he would have wanted. Probably in the back of his mind trying to aim at that right-hand bunker and just draw the ball off it. Clattered into the trees that overhang there some 10 or 15 yards short of the putting surface. But confirmation that it is okay.
A bit of good fortune for Vijay Singh. Now not a bad angle to get at the flag from, with a pin just 4 yards from the right and the bunker on the right. If you miss the bunker to the right, very difficult to get down into, so both players fully aware if they're going to miss this green, it's best missed on the left-hand side. I have to say, we come here year after year, and Wentworth seems to improve in condition. They've got a new sprinkler system put in 3 or 4 years ago, and Ernie Els on the 17th just completing his round. He just can't get enough of this game. I suppose when you win 10 and 8 it does make you want to come back.
Well, that's the 4th drive he's hit off the 17th tee, and it's certainly the toughest drive on this golf course. Fairway sloping from left to right and the hole bending the other way. Well, there's the ball of Vijay Singh, so clattered into the trees and came back towards him, 30 yards from the putting surface. And a couple of choices here. He can either float this all the way up to the flag, or he can play it into the bank at the front corner of the green. Anxious to try and at least get a half here and continue the progress.
Interestingly, even this near to the green, the players interested in the yardage. 134 to the front and 44 to the flag. All helps in the feel of the shot.
Low point of the rough there, fairly juicy after the rain yesterday. And not quite getting enough ball in the club face there, but he's left himself an uphill putt.
Have a look, this one, there's always an element of good fortune needed for this to come out correctly. Again, slightly off the back foot, chopping right down on it, trying to avoid trapping too much grass between the club and the ball. And he'll be reasonably satisfied with that. He couldn't afford to carry it all the way to the flag, because it tends to release on from there.
Well, there's the final, but who's going to join Ernie Els? He's comfortably through after a 10 and 8 victory, and nothing in it between Lehman and Singh, but certainly Lehman has got the advantage at the par 5 12th. A big trophy that will go to the winner tomorrow night.
Little soft spot in front of this green. He's got to decide if he's going to try to run it through it or carry it all the way. And just where he would have liked to have landed the ball with the sandwich, it was a bit wet. So he's still probably slightly in two minds, but out with a putter. You can just see a little squishiness under his feet.
Couple of options here. This caddy can either attend the flag, he can leave it, or he can have the pin out, and I think he's going to have the former. Double breaker this one, little left to right to start with, then right to left. There's the first swing. Now it should straighten out from there and start to turn back. Beautiful effort and a wise choice of club.
Yes, if you take a lofted club out and it sits very quickly on the first bounce, you can come 10 or 12 feet short. There's the putting grip. Quite a recent thing for him to put the right forefinger down the shaft. Just been doing it this season. Very important to get the ball rolling off the putter face when you play this type of shot, and that was beautifully done. If it tends to bounce again, you're going to come up short. Pressure right back on VJ. This for a 4 and this for a half.
Inch outside right. Never move the muscle. Green's of course slightly damp. Ball doesn't move quite as much as in the summer when they're dry, and that 4 from Tom Lehman at the 12th means he moves into the final 6th of this semi-final with a 1-hole advantage. Now the 13th here is a lovely par 4. There's a bunker down the right side. A difficult drive because you're driving along a hog's back, and anything too far left will kick off to the left. Anything to the right will wander down towards the semi-rough and the trees.
Here is a look at the hole. There's a bunker up that right-hand side, 235 yards to clear it, so with a driver you can take it out of play, but the whole fairway tends to slope from on the right side to the right, and the ball tends to kick off from there. But ideally you want to come in from that side to a green that's a sort of cup shape. It slopes in both from the right and the left and the back. And today the pin cut right in that back portion of the green, again not dissimilar to the 11th, 22 paces on dead centre. Very difficult to get close to, but at least playing a second shot into the 13th, you're going in with a longer iron, so it's less likely to spin back.
There's the shape of the hole, and if the players are looking at a 6 or 7 iron as they should be for the second shot, you can always go down a club and run it up that green, because it doesn't matter what side you come in from. Now Lehman started that on the perfect line. Oh, that's a stunner. Beautiful tee shot. See the first kick to the left, then onto the slope, and ambling its way down towards the first cut of rough, but he really couldn't place that any better.
Absolutely inch perfect. Very important in 36 holes in the day. Not much time for lunch, that you take on board a few drinks and an odd banana. There's the problem if it goes down the right, but you can avoid going to the trees. The crowd are going to stop it. It's a bit wet and mushy down there, a bit damp.
Yes, and a little lateral water hazard down there as well. But as you say, I think the spectators will have stopped that, and probably lying on the ground that's been trampled on. So as Ken was saying, it might be a little mushy, but he should be able to get control of the ball. Just off the right side of the fairway, quite a bit short of that ditch that runs diagonally across the fairway. The player's very anxious not to drive it down the left, because then you're blocked out, and just as we thought, Singh on that trampled down turf. Should be a little squashy, a little wet there, but as long as he gets the ball first, he'll be able to gain control of it. Galleries swelled, of course, by the early departure of Mark Brooks. Looking rather splendid, the marshals there in the Toyota jumpers, as we have a look here at Tom Lehman. Lovely address position, quite upright, quite a straight spine angle, and that encourages the swing to revolve around the body. Good position there, left knee moving in to encourage the turn of the right side, and then it's the reversal on the way through. In goes the right knee, up go the hands, and the higher Lehman finishes, the better he plays, because it takes the hook out of his game. So a swing that's been described as not that orthodox, in actual fact isn't too far off it.
Plenty of marshals around to keep the crowd under control and keep your eye on the golf ball. It's always been customary for each player to have their own individual one, and they stand by the golf ball. So Lehman is in red and Singh in green.
Singh looking for his first win stateside this year. He was second at Doral, tied with Michael Bradley. Classic finish to that tournament, fifth in the USPGA, when really he should have done rather better. He was in pole position there moving into the last 2 or 3 holes. Currently ranked 20th in the Sony World Ranking, which is a yardstick on which we look at these players for consistency rather than brilliance. Because we had the rain yesterday, the groundsmen have been out this morning and they've put a lot of wood chips there to try and soak up the moisture, and you may actually get a lift from there because that's been artificially put down. It's not there naturally.
Here's the option to take a drop. All pathways of which have been edged and surfaced with wood chippings. A movable obstruction. 24-2. Michael Eriksson explaining nearest point of release and then 1 club length.
These cables, and we're going to move the rope back that side. All my moving back now, please. All my moving back. Thank you. Everything's coming. Everyone move back. Everybody move over to the...
It's so important in this situation for Tom Lehman to maintain his concentration. Sometimes these delays can throw you off course.
1 or 2 of the spectators in danger have been strangled there by the rope on the right side. The marshals eager to keep everything going. It's a little dank and dismal outside, but of course Wentworth tree lined, and there's not an enormous amount of room to move around. Now Lehman just coming over to check, but Ken's already given us that ruling. So quite within his rights, Vijay Singh. And I suspect there was a wood chipping there maybe immediately behind the ball, because had he had a clear lie, he may well have preferred to play it from there.
Just trying to look for a nice closely crop area where there's no divots been taken. Get the best possible drop. I just wonder if any of these players actually practice dropping. Bernard Langer, perhaps?
Well, you were very methodical in your tournament years. You knew all the rules like the back of your hand. And of course the rules are not there just to penalise you, they are there to help you as well.
Absolutely, they're certainly helping Vijay Singh here. And I can't remember how many years ago it was, but of course we used to drop it over the shoulder. Well, no matter how long you practiced that way, you could never find a decent lie.
Often used to get 1 or 2 Rick necks turning around quick enough to see if the ball was lying okay or not. But 1 or 2 rules have changed over the years, but normally I think they're pretty much the same. Now he's had his drop, and Singh left with a 6-iron.
Sound a little slappy, a little heavy. After the tee shot, he'll be only too pleased to see that on the middle of the green.
Well, the drop wasn't too bad. Beautiful the way that left arm clears the chest. Gives him plenty of time to get some leverage into the downswing. And it all looks very graceful. Now Lehman from the perfect position.
Go fly.
Little off the upslope. Urging it on, as a result coming up also a little bit short. Wasn't going to make the same mistake as he made at the 11th.
Sing with a butt straight up the hill through the middle of the saucer. Once again, you see Lehman's feet there a little bit to the left, and you'll see that the club actually points on that line at the top. The left wrist very strong, and from there down into a lower plane. And as long as he remembers to keep his hands high on the way through, it avoids the crossover too quickly after impact. Swing I've enjoyed watching over the last few years, and one I'm sure that will get better with age. It's 3/4 in length. There's not too much pressure on the weaker points of the back. And what a great year it's been. Victory over there at Royal Lytham, and his father there to see it, and partied all the way through the night. Eventually went to bed, I believe, at something like 20 to 7 the following morning.
Sounds like one we all should have been at. And of course, he had that little bit of a faux pas over the check. Got lost in the post and eventually ended up having 2 checks from the R&A. So he's managed to frame one of them and cash the other.
Yes, I hate when that happens. Lost in the post. Well, Mark Brooks heads the Ryder Cup standing stateside, just by a little from Tom Lehman. Phil Mickelson, of course, has had a great year, and they started their point system way back at the beginning of 1996. Pretty good looking team in there at the moment. Jeff Maggott in at 8th. Remember, he won the Walt Disney back in 1994, his first victory on the US PGA Tour. And Steve Jones, with victory at Auckland Hills, has edged his way into the top 10 just ahead of Kenny Perry. Stricker in at 7th, and I would think that's probably the nucleus of the Ryder Cup team that will be at Valderrama next September to take on the European side and try to wrestle that famous old trophy back and take it across the Atlantic once again. Vijay Singh won't be involved in that, but he was involved in the President's Cup just a month or so ago. There'll never be another Ryder Cup, but I thought it was a great opportunity for the rest of the world side to get into that team competition, which always usually produces a very special atmosphere.
Yes, and I think the President's Cup is growing in stature. Certainly the players thoroughly enjoyed it. Greg Norman said he got a real buzz from the team atmosphere. And I'm sure Arnie and Peter Thompson enjoyed it as well. Vijay Singh was there. He played a vital part in it.
Beautiful putt. After a slightly wayward tee shot, Singh secures his 4. But of course a chance for Lehman to go 2 up and 5 to play. Different line for Lehman. He's over on the left-hand side, so there will be quite a borrow from the left. Look at the 17th there, and that's the age to start, isn't it? No clubs in sight though. Not too sure about the foot joist. That's an old trick they used to use in the west coast of Scotland. Used to get the bonnet held up high, kept the flies off, they said. And Lehman can't quite make a 3 at the 13th. So half there in 4, no change. Lehman remains 1 up. Pretty tight. 2 par 5s to come at the end of the golf course, a par 3 coming up, and sandwiched in between 2 very different par 4s, a dog leg from left to right, the 15th, and then the 16th from right to left. But 14 today quite a difficult proposition, pin on the back left corner of the green, and the players won't see that flag because the tee's well below the green.
Playing 176 yards today, and up the hill usually plays some 10 yards longer. There's a tier that runs right across the centre of the putting surface. It's 13 yards to get the top of that, so the pin just 5 yards above it, tucked in the left-hand corner. There's a bunker to the left, a couple of bunkers that can gather the ball up if you just slightly overdraw it. Anything pitching into that tier runs right to the front of the green. There is one of those bunkers. I've visited that on numerous occasions.
Not on purpose, though. Awkward bunker it is too, because not too much of it's flat. The bank's steep on both sides, front and back. And of course they can't see that second bunker. It's just heading over a little mound. Sparkling card just off camera there for any player who can pop one into the hole.
A little bit of breeze helping. A 6-iron this morning for Lehman, the same this afternoon.
Beautifully started on line. Now, has it kept that line? Oh yes, it has. Oh yes, terrific.
VJ will know it's close, but he won't be quite sure how close. Aiming left and with a pin cut left. Difficult pin to get at with a fade shot.
Well, it needs to fade. It started on that bunker. Oh, and it's come back beautifully in two stunning shots once again. And it should be VJ's thing to putt first. Just off the very edge of the green, but not too far from the hole, some 12 feet or so.
Always get good crowds here at Wentworth, and of course with Ernie Els already through to the final, all of them watching this match. 12,800 here yesterday. I'm not at all surprised if there's not a few more than that here today.
An increase of 3,000 on the first day. Now here we go, bit of training. Now what kind of shaft's that? Is that carbon or titanium, Ken?
It looks a little bit hickory. In fact, I've got a funny feeling it could be a bit of holly. Do you remember those red Wellington boots?
Lovely wee chap.
Please keep behind the ropes. I think he's got the idea of it.
Well, I think he may start out as a greenkeeper and then progress on maybe to the tour after that. What a lovely wee face he has there. Happy little boy, and both players happy with the tee shots at the 14th. First of all, Lehman.
Always interesting, this position at the top of the swing, the sort of arched left wrist. There it is. Lee Trevino used to use it. Arnie Palmer, very powerful position, and drives down hard and through. Generally hits most of his iron shots from right to left, unless he's forced to go the other way. And you can see the way Singh is aiming, particularly with his shoulder and his club face down the left-hand side. Big wide takeaway. That's something he's been working on. Just take the club a little bit wider away from the ball. A classic position at the top of the swing. And just drives through with the legs. And just squaring the club face out. That was as sweet as a nut, right out the centre of the club face. In fact, you could say it was singing out the middle.
You could.
Quiet, please. Quiet, please.
Now with Lehman so close, Singh will be looking no further than a 2. Inch and a half swing from the left. Started it on line. Oh, and he's got it. What a lovely 2. Lehman in there first with the tee shot. All the pressure on Singh, and he was more than up to it. Lehman having to hole now to guard that 1-hole advantage. Stunning stuff to watch.
Like most of the players these days, they line the logo up where they want to start the ball. Now this one needs to be on the right edge, but no wider. Very close bond between player and caddy in this partnership.
Decided to hit it straight, and as it lost its pace, it lost its line, and that wonderful 2 from Vijay Singh means that in the second semi-final it's all square and 4 to play. Mentioned a little earlier, Antv Television in Indonesia with us this afternoon, and they host one of their championships 10 days before Christmas. So good luck with that. I know there's a good field going out there, and some fine courses in that part of the world.
The 15th, one of my favourite holes on the golf course, 466 yards, bunker down the left-hand side. Not really in play today because what breeze there is slightly helping the players from the left. And the green that slopes quite considerably from right to left. Bunker down the left-hand side, and the one on the right could easily come into play today. Put on 11 on, 6 from the right-hand side.
And Lehman took 5 here this morning, finding the bunker in 2. Vijay Singh with a splendid 8-iron and just 5 feet away from the cup.
He's got to be careful he doesn't run out of fairway. Just a nice little 3/4 driver, great to watch.
That is A1 perfect. It's the magic of match play, isn't it? All of a sudden Lehman looking like he's going to go ahead and get 2 or 3 up and pegged back by the brilliance of Singh at the last.
Side and drawing back into the perfect spot. Just holding on to the edge of the fairway there. 300 yards to the end of it, so a drive of 290. Really cut this hole down to size.
Well, we had a look at the American Ryder Cup side a little early on, and strong it looked, but the European team now beginning to take a little shape. Their standing started back at Collingtree, up there in Northampton. Colin Montgomery heads the way with just under £300,000, but Thomas Bjorn has burst his way into the top 3 there with victory at Loch Lomond and some very consistent finishes since that. Costantino Rocco, hero perhaps of Oak Hill when he holed in 1 at the 6th, and Darren Clark with German success there in at number 4. Per Ulrik Johansson played in the last singles match at Oak Hill against his fellow collegiate player Phil Mickelson. He lost that match, but it didn't matter. because Philip Walton had already secured victory on the 18th green. Good start from Miguel Ángel Martín from Spain, former French Open champion, and also another Frenchman in there, Jean van der Velde. Paul Broadhurst's consistent finishes have edged him into the top 10, and Sam Toms, who had such a slow start to the year, in there at 9, just under £100,000. You know, look at 10th place there, Ken Miguel Ángel Jiménez, and he was very unfortunate not to make the side back in 1995.
And he came close in 93, actually finished number 11 in 95, so he'll be looking forward to it. He said over the last 2 times he's had the opportunity to play, put a little bit too much pressure on himself, so he's just going to let things happen this season and hope things fall into place. And number 13 on the left is Seve after his 2 recent good performances, so he'll be hoping to play his way into the side, and he might be the first playing captain in recent years.
Ian Woosnam 5 places behind Severiano Ballesteros. And of course we have Nick Faldo, who is now playing almost solely over there on the US PGA Tour, and one would think that he will be one of the 2 wildcard choices should he not manage to edge his way into that top 10. Do you think 2 wildcard choices is enough?
Well, I think Seve is perhaps having second thoughts about that because there's the chance of Parnevik or Faldo, so I think he would like to have had 3, and I'm surprised that he took the job on under those terms, but he had that little quirk put in that if he qualifies, that if he doesn't fancy playing, he'll have to choose another player. But I would like to see at least 3, if I was captain, 4.
Well, Mickey Walker, captain of the Solheim Cup side, has requested 5 picks, and quite rightly so, because the majority of her side plays regularly on the LPGA Tour in the States. But the answer was that we won with 2 wild cards, so we can do it again, and well, we'll look forward to that event coming up at the magnificent Valderrama next September. But in the immediate future, we're looking for a result in the second semi-final here at Wentworth, and there's nothing to choose between Tom Lehman and Vijay Singh.
Plays a little bit down the hill, despite 165 yards, wind helping, just a little punching 8-iron. In the middle of the green, a little bit of a cut on it.
He's gone right at it. Beautiful shot. In exactly the same way as he played the hole in the morning, and he's left himself a 10-footer up the hill with a couple of inches swing from the left.
Talking of Ryder Cups, Tom Lehman, obviously a major part of the event at Oak Hill, took on Seve in that opening singles, and what a match that was. Seve was left and right and very rarely centre, and Tom was playing like an absolute machine, and eventually beat him on the 15th, but it was a real battle. A good match player, and I think that really battle hardened him.
Down, down, down.
Once again, not really favouring a shot that turns in from right to left. Advantage Singh.
Well, who's going to meet Ernie Els? Is it going to be Vijay Singh or Tom Lehman? Well, there's nothing in it at the moment.
Just edging their way over the oak bridge that moves its way across this little stream that runs diagonally from right to left.
Yes, I came over here one winter to measure the golf course up with my trundle wheel. We used to have to do our own yardage bits in the old days, and didn't see that ditch and walked straight into the middle of it.
And that should cheer up the rest of the world, I should think. Pity we didn't have it on film. I remember you interviewing Ian Botham last year at the Forest of Arden, and that was a very amusing interview, especially from the ground.
Yes, it was highly funny. Walking through the tree roots, had a little bit of a stumble and a little bit of a laugh, and then went absolutely, I was going to say, head over heels.
As we said, on the ground. Pear-shaped green this 15th, and just about the hardest pin position you can get. they move it a little further back, it can become almost inaccessible, especially if it's playing its full distance. But just short irons for these players. Almost like the curtain raiser, or the curtain going down, I should say, at the end of the 1996 season, the last tournament in Britain, and well, the last tournament for the European Tour is down there in Spain, the Volvo Masters, and then they start to look forward to the Tour School and build up once again next year when our tour begins over in the east before heading down to South Africa. And then from there we slip up to the United Arab Emirates, to Dubai and the magnificent Emirates Golf Club there for the Dubai Desert Classic. And I think the month of March in many ways produces the finest golf when we edge into the Florida swing over there in America, and all the American players gathering a bit of momentum then.
You're looking towards the lovely lush green fairways of Augusta. Of course, all enjoy Bay Hill and Doral, and particularly the Players' Championship growing in stature. I always think that marks the start of the golfing season. It's when the public get interested.
Great pity Nick Faldo, I think, didn't play in this great championship here this week. It would have given us all the 4 major winners, but they will come together for the Grand Slam of golf out in Hawaii in 3 weeks' time. Now Lehman for a 3. Don't think he's hit it, has he? Just ran out of steam at the end.
Lehman will be in action next week at the Tour Championship, as will Vijay Singh, the finale of the US Tour. No chance here for Singh. Would have seen the way Lehman's ball just died a little bit to the right.
Beautifully struck. Ooh. Well, a bit on to Lehman's, a bit off Singh's, and we would have had a half and 3. But it's a half and 4, no change. They move to the 16th. All square going to the 34th. It was obviously going to be a tight one, this, from the very beginning this morning. Each player matching each other shot for shot. Question of who was going to hold the vital putts. Very interesting finish these last 3 holes at Wentworth, and that would have given him a 1-hole lead, but not to be. Maybe looking to the skies there for a little bit of help. View from the elbow of the dog leg at the 16th. And the tee nicely nestled back there in the neck of woods.
Playing very much down the breeze, this one. Lehman got a debate. Is he going to hit an iron to the narrow part of the fairway by that drum bunker, or try and fly it over it to 240 yards? To a green that you can't see the putting surface from the fairway, which slopes a long way off at the back, and the pin 18 on a 4 from the left-hand side, tucked in that back left-hand corner. Quite a generous position. Important to find the cut and prepared from the tee. The harpoon, the spoon, the 3-wood for Vijay.
Might just find the semi-rough on the right. And the slope bring it back into the middle of the fairway. By taking the 3-wood, he brought that bunker back into play. Now Lehman with the drop. Will he have a crash with the driver here?
Tour electing to go with the 3 wood. Well, since they've narrowed this fairway out in years gone by, I would say at least 50% of the players have taken an iron from the tee. So it's forced them to play for the slightly wider portion of the fairway.
You can see 1 or 2 divot marks with the irons earlier on this week. Doesn't seem too worried about that. Down the right side, touch of draw, and still not very much in it.
A few little drainage lines run across that fairway. You just want to avoid that because sometimes you get a slightly more grassy lie. This runs alongside the A30, so if you hear a few cars coming by, just to the right of where we're looking is a fairly major road.
It's the A30 going all the way down to Oakhampton. But we'll take a look at the European Seniors Tour, the Player Championship over at the Buckinghamshire this week, and John Morgan, fresh off a couple of victories, one up at Newmarket, the Scottish Seniors, and the other coming at the Warwickshire a couple of weeks ago. But Tommy Horton in an unassailable position there. He's certainly going to top the order of merit. But Malcolm Gregson over at the Buckinghamshire leads after the first round, so a chance maybe to improve on that £49,000 total. Noel Ratcliffe now past the age of 50. Where do all the years go, I wonder? And Maurice Bembridge, after living in Iowa for the last 8 years, is now back playing on the Seniors Tour with Bobby Verwey, Gary Player's brother-in-law, who won earlier this year in Turkey. Brian Huggett still going well. Never forget that Paddy Hold way back in 1969 in the Ryder Cup, and he thought he'd won it, only to find out later that it was in actual fact a tied match. So some names from the past still adding to their bank account, and that with just 1 tournament left to go.
From the high camera behind the 16th tee, just gives you an idea of how this hole doglegs slightly to the left. BJ Singer's recently built a house at Pontevedra Beach, the lovely TPC course there at Sawgrass, and him and his family just live some 50 yards from the beach there.
Yes, one of my favourite hotels in the world out there near Jacksonville, the Lodge at Pontevedra Beach. Very special place.
Yeah, I'd love to stay there one day.
Yes, it's not cheap, I have to say, but luxury of the highest quality.
Maybe just slightly getting ahead of that one, was trying to draw it back, and it's absolutely stuck up. Wasn't quite what he was after.
Shows the expectations of these top players now. That's not really a bad approach shot at all, but not what he wanted in the back of his mind. Then he's got himself on the green. He's done the right thing, and the pressure once again on the Open champion.
130 yards. Looks like a good full pitching wedge. And I've got a feeling this is going to be very close. Such a good iron play. It's it time and time again, right down the flag, and that was another pin seeker.
Tom Lehman currently 6th in the Sony World Rankings with 8.28 points, still headed by Greg Norman, and Colin Montgomery without a major title in there at 2nd. Ozaki, the only other player in the top 9 without a major title. Of course, Davis Love came so close at Oakland Hills when sadly three-putted the last green to let in Steve Jones. But Mickelson has made his way back into that top 10 after a horrific skiing accident, and now back to somewhere near his best. Couples, the tournament players champion. Another big healthy prize he won over there, and that's taken him to within a few $1,000s of 1 million. Now Zaki, you had some news of him a little earlier in the week. 122 million yen he's won this year.
Yes, and very close between 2 and 7, and a couple of weeks ago if he'd won in Japan, Jumbo Ozaki would have moved up to number 2 in the rankings. Over the past 2 seasons he's won 16 tournaments plus $5 million in prize money, so he's quite some performer, and that's $1 million more than any of the others on that list.
So what does he do? Does he stay in Japan or does he go to the US Seniors Tour?
It'll be very interesting to see which way he goes. I've got a funny feeling he might stay in Japan. He's never been a great traveller. He's had a few good tournaments in the major championship, a few good rounds rather, but never really managed to produce his best golf overseas.
Nick Faldo slipped to 8th in the Sony World Rankings earlier this year, his lowest position since winning the Spanish Open in 1987, but he's now found his way back into the top 3.
And amazingly, in 6 weeks, Tiger Woods is number 61 in the world, which is a remarkable achievement, the fastest climb into the top 100 of any golfer ever.
Star of the future, but the stars of the present are on this 16th green, and or rather like the 14th, it's the same psychological sight of this putt for Vijay Singh. He knows that Lehman's probably close enough to hole, and in these match play situations you get the feeling if Singh misses, Lehman will hole, and if Singh holes, well, the pressure may be a little too much for Tom, but we shall see.
One or two little subtle breaks on this green. Pace beat, he had the right line. So a chance for Tommy Lehman.
Difficult putt this, because the green you feel tilts a little from right to left, and yet I suspect there's not going to be too much swing on this. Need the courage of your convictions here. Beautifully done, never left the centre of the hole, and a birdie at the 34th hole sees Tom Lehman moving to the famous 17th hole here at Wentworth with a 1-hole lead. Els been finished now for quite some time, and despite playing the odd shot on the way in, he'll be nice and relaxed and fresh to start the 36-hole final tomorrow. Much has happened over these closing holes though.
Yes, we saw Ernie Els hitting a few practice tee shots at the 17th for tomorrow's final. He knows it's a critical tee shot, very, very difficult. Here is a look at the hole from halfway down the fairway. Doglegs from right to left. And those trees on the right-hand side, they're just through there is the outer bounds. It must have been a really frightening hole before they'd grown up. And this is how it looks as the players play it. 571 yards. Requires a harder draw from the tee. The whole of the fairway slopes from left to right, and little silver birches down the right are very popular. It's going to be reachable in 2 today with 2 absolute bazookas playing down the breeze. And this fairway with a little snaky shape, making it difficult. You've got to be so accurate to run the ball onto the putting surface. Anyone missing the green on the right hand side leaves a very, very difficult little chip. And you see where the flag is there. Just 8 on and 5 from the right hand side.
Last 50% of the whole serpentine like, not quite as straight as the graphic shows there. That's the way it used to be. Dead straight from the top of that ridge looking down onto the green, but they've now shaped that rough in there, and much more difficult to find the green in two. They can certainly reach it lengthwise, but accuracy, that's a tough question.
You would think this sets up perfectly for Tom down the right, drawing it back into the fairway. And without risking life and limb, it's not a bad place to be. The ball seemed to just settle down a fraction. Now, VJ played a visit to the Gardens, not with his tee shot, with his second shot. That on day 2.
Beautiful goal swing. The width he created there on the way down was quite exceptional. And tee shots don't come any better than that. Full of courage, full of commitment, and full of determination.
And a fair degree of skill as well. Ball pitching within 8 yards of the white posts down the left-hand side. And this is what faces him for his second shot. If you don't get your tee shot at least 265, 70 yards from the tee, you just can't see around the corner of the dogleg.
If you look at the angle between left forearm and club halfway back, you'll see it sets quite nicely there at 90 degrees. But a bigger shoulder turn, and we've seen the club of Singh pointing left, that there he got his left shoulder past the ball. He kept the angle between his left arm and his shoulder all the way through. Superb width, and you'll see it better from here. Into the backswing, there's the weight moving to the right side. Now just as the wrists begin to hinge, you'll see that 90-degree angle, left forearm and club there, and the shoulder turn completes the backswing. That is absolutely perfect, but the most impressive thing about it, from there he maintains the width, and look how the right arm straightens through there at impact. Swept that away beautifully off the top of the tee, and well, it was such a courageous line, and the reward he'll get for that is that he will be able to get some idea of whether he can reach this green in two, and it may even be with an iron. That was a long tee shot.
There are 4 par 5s on this golf course. The 4th on the front nine and 3 on the back nine. The 12th very reachable in 2, and so is the 18th. But the 17th you really do have to get a long tee shot if you have any chance of reaching for 2. Out in 35, back in 37, under 7,000 yards, not particularly long. We're playing a little bit longer this week due to the fact it is fairly damp, and a par of 72.
Of course, that's hardly changed over the years. Not too much has been changed on the course itself. The bunker's pretty much in the same place. 1 or 2 new tees put in. Many of the courses in this area used to play to bogey, and some of them still do. Swinley Forest, not too far away from here at Ascot, it's up to a bogey of 75. The system changed to par to match up with the American system a little earlier this century. Well, Lehman looks fairly cool marching down the 17th. And he'll be hoping for a decent lie, a lie that he can get a 3-wood at. He's not quite at the elbow of the dogleg, but very close to it, and VJ Singh slap bang in the centre of the fairway. I think he is a choice of second, VJ Ken. He can either get a 1 or a 2 iron and chase it down there, or take the 3-wood and fly it all the way onto the edge of the green.
Yes, and it'd be interested to see first of all what Tom Lehman does. He's got a decent lie, so it is in range. In these metal woods, in the old days, you had to be a really classy player to hit a driver from the deck. Tharbel on the European Tour, and Christy O'Connor Senior were the very few that could do that, but these days most players can get the ball up reasonably quickly with the driver. Anyway, Lehman's got the 3-wood, I think.
News of Jose Maria Olazabal. He hopes to be back in the early part of next season. Hasn't played since the Sprint International over in Colorado, just a week before last year's Ryder Cup, and he's been sorely missed over here. A great character, a superb young player. He's just past the age of 30, and let's hope he can conquer that rheumatoid arthritis and get himself back in the fairways. The game would certainly be a much better game for his inclusion in it.
I think he quite likes it.
Absolutely adores it. Gorgeous shot from Lehman.
That was right down the garden path. Couldn't have been any more accurate than that. Now for Singh, it's just a little 3/4 3-wood. It's not a full shot for him.
His mind made up by the shot of Tom Lehman. He doesn't like it. I don't know why he's flown it all the way onto the green and stopped it. And that's two shots of the very highest quality.
Yes, they don't come much better than that. 571 yards. A little bit of breeze helping, but not much of it. A classic setup from Tom Lehman. Fairly narrow stance. Doesn't get much hip turn. You can see the weight doesn't really transfer too much onto the right side. And from there on he drives into it with that cupped left wrist at the top. Very easy to hook the ball. And a slightly curtailed follow through. A very sort of punchy action. Ideal for that 3-wood out of the rough.
th green ringed with spectators, some 10 deep. Good hole to watch from. Of course, the bank on the left side's a little higher than the putting surface itself. Look from behind, and the tallest tree there is the line, and it started right down at touch of draw at the end. Got the scoot off the downslope and straight into the heart of the green. And depending on what would have happened there to Lehman's shot would have depended on the thoughts of Vijay Singh. He would have had his mind made up for him. Had Lehman pushed it down the right side, he knew that he'd be pretty difficult to get down in two from there. But he had no option but to take on the challenge that the 17th presents, and he just thrashed that up into the air. Didn't like the look of it. I've really no idea why, because it never left the left-hand corner of the green, and because of a higher trajectory, he was able to bring that to a standstill slightly quicker than Lehman.
Such a difficult shot as well. The ball below your feet, and you're requiring a high draw. Plus, you know where the pin is on that right-hand side. You don't want to miss the green down the right. So, a very classy shot of Vijay Singh's as well. Perhaps hoping for a little bit more with his playing partner or his opponent so close.
Looks like Lehman's putt first. Relatively flat green this one. There won't be too much swing, and it may just turn a little from right to left at the end. And for Singh, virtually dead straight. And it looks like a 3 is required for the Fijian. Lost to Jeff Sluman in the first round back in 1992. 1994 he beat Jesper Parnevik 4-3 in the first round, and then took on the tigerish Corey Pavin, and that match went all the way to the 37th before Vijay got through to the semi-final, finally losing to Colin Montgomery on the 36th green. Last year he lost to Costantino Rocca. This is the way things shaped up this week. Elkington, who was in the final last year, first round loser to Steve Stricker. Ian Woosnam far from his best. He's had 1 or 2 back problems of late and may have to have surgery. And Montgomery went through reasonably comfortably there by the tune of 3 and 2. Tight match with Mickelson. Don't think anyone who saw the first round will ever forget the third shot of Mickelson at the final hole. Mark O'Meara had an easy task in the first round. Nobio Serizawa a little from his best, and O'Meara going through by 7 and 5. £30,000 there, though, to the loser, so some consolation. But when you get as far as this, Ken, your eyes firmly fixed on the trophy.
Yeah, it's got such a rich history with so many wonderful names on the trophy, and these fellas are extremely wealthy anyway, so the money really doesn't come into it. Discussing the little elevations to go over.
Well, it was tight, but Singh to go first. I think it's got the speed, has it? Has it? Oh, he had the line, bang on line and short. But nevertheless, a splendid fork.
It's asking quite a lot, but Lehman has the opportunity to close this match out. He's also got to have in the back of his mind, he doesn't want to be charging it 2 or 3 or 4 feet past, because one up with one to go is still a very commanding lead. So he's got to have a little bit element of caution over this putt.
Hardly moved a muscle, but more importantly than anything else, Lehman judged the distance there to perfection, and that should be conceded. It doesn't look like it. I can't think that he's going to ask him to putt that.
Well, this stage in proceedings, you've got to grasp at straws, and it's not dead, it's just over 2 feet. I'm sure he's thinking I'm being a little bit mean here, but it has to be seen. The green's beautifully true.
Very professional from Lehman, gave that his every attention, and moves to the 18th one up, and just one hole left to play. Both players can certainly reach the 18th, but there's 1 or 2 bunkers down the left-hand side to catch any of them out. Anything that's slightly pulled, and because you're trying to fade the ball off the tee, it's very easy just to leak one off into the right-hand semi-rough. Well, we said it would go down to the 18th, and that's exactly what's happened, Ken.
Yes, and it slightly favours VJ with his fade. Those bunkers down the left have been deepened over the past season, a couple of feet deeper. Now saw the problem Stricker had there yesterday. Dogleg to the right, the hole reachable in 2, 502 yards. The pin today cut on 24.5 from the left-hand side, so slightly tucked behind the left-hand bunker. Well, Lehman managed to reach the green in 2 this morning. His second with the most glorious 1-iron. Well, he's going to have to do it again, I think.
Trees that border this 18th have changed colour since the championship began back in Thursday morning. We had a lovely bright day, blue sky, and the horse chestnuts beginning to burst their way out of their shells. A lovely time of the year. The only bad news is we know what's coming up after it. Still a pleasant evening for golf, light beginning to fade a fraction out there. Lovely blend of trees down here to the silver birches and ash and oak and beach. And the brainchild of talent way back in the 1920s. He designed a lovely part of Weybridge just before that, and wanted to find another part of real estate where he could put some large houses round and a golf course near enough for the people to enjoy it. And that one just about to pop out of its shell there. But it is a beautiful part, and it will go on for many years to be exactly the same as it's been since the beginnings. Good golf course, one that stood the test of time. Hosted this championship since back in 1964, and well, it's had numerous PGA championships over the years, and that now the showpiece of the European Tour. Now Lehman with the honour, understandably the driver. Must find the fairway.
Just seems to have pegged that one down a fraction more than he normally would. Just trying to squeeze one out. Slightly easier to fade the ball if you teed the ball down a fraction.
Ball a bit further forward in the stance, shoulders open. And left arm and club shaft much more in line there. Now he started it down the left, it's fading back, and he's found the dead centre of the fairway. Just in the semi-rough, eventually driving across the fairway rather than along it, but that's a good tee shot from Lehman. Pole position.
Yes, if he'd hit that tee shot off the final hole at Oakland Hills, he may well have been the US Open champion. A similar type of tee shot, bunker down the left. Needed a hard draw, and he just held onto it in that instant and finished in the left-hand bunker. But that's inch perfect. I don't think we're going to see Vijay Singh hold back. That ditch that runs across the fairway, 320 yards to reach it, but 280 yards to the top of the hill. It's all downhill to that. So Vijay will be opening his shoulders here.
Well, a few Fijian supporters in the gallery. Now that should find its way back onto the fairway, and it's down the short line. Two beautiful tee shots under pressure. And no real advantage for either player there, because the pin over on the left side, Lehman likes to draw his iron so he can use the slope in from the right side. And Vijay far enough down there to fly it all the way onto the green.
Yes, and it just stopped quickly enough not to find the little down slope. So Vijay got a very good angle to attack the flag. I'm pretty confident he'll be thinking that Lehman's going to make at least, at worst, a birdie 4, so he knows he's really got to be after an eagle 3.
A long time ago, Ernie Els booked his position in the final of the Toyota World Match Play. Mark Brooks, the victim of a trouncing there. And if Vijay Singh can win this final hole, then we'll be off up the 37th, the first. And we'll go on until we can find a winner. Longest match in this championship has gone to the 40th. But Lehman will want to finish the job off here.
For quite some time this season, Tom Lehman's been the leading United States player on the Sonny rankings, but Fred Couples has just sneaked past him in the last few weeks. Couples ranked 5 and Tom Lehman number 6. He's made a steady climb over the past 4 or 5 seasons after coming through the Hogan Tour. And he's a real hardened pro these days, makes very few silly mistakes, concentrates well.
He's had a nice long spell in Europe, Tom Lehman, playing in the European Open and then off to play in the German Masters. Last week, of course, up there at St Andrews in the Alfred Dunhill Cup. Yesterday we had the quarter-finals here, and Ernie Els, well, that will go down in history as one of the great comebacks. 6 down after 18, eventually the South African birdieing the final hole for victory. Mark Brooks had a real titanic battle with Colin Montgomery before winning by 1 hole, both players birdieing the last. Brooks from some 15 yards off the left-hand side of the green. Vijay Singh, 9-8 winner over an out-of-form Steve Jones. And Tom Lehman, a comfortable victory at the 13th in the afternoon over Mark O'Meara.
Vijay Singh's going to have the slight advantage of being able to put his second shot hopefully somewhere close first, but a bit more pressure on. There's what faces him. The flags on the hospitality stents not moving at all now. The wind almost died completely.
Cold ball, number 1.
211 yards, so probably in between a 3 and a 4 iron, and a lot will depend on which way he wants to move the ball in the air.
Bit left, just fractionally pulled, but nice straightening bounce there, so he has the eagle opportunity.
You just marvel at the way the players can produce these shots under the utmost of pressure. Straight over the bunker, slightly hanging lie, but with so much elevation on it. And as you say, a great chance of an eagle, and that's given Tom Lehman something to think about.
Left to right arm. Yeah.
A nice lie. Not going to catch any grass between the club and the ball.
Well, that started in the centre of the green, maybe wandering a little to the right. Oh, and unlucky, very unlucky. That's the lowest part of the green, and it will have held a little bit of the water from yesterday. Very unlucky to be playing a long iron and stopping that quickly.
Same thing hit this morning when he hit the one iron, didn't run up the green as he anticipated. And that's not the easiest of two putts. It's a little bit up the hill, quite a big swing from right to left, and if you let the putt go at all to the left of the hole, it can get away from you very easily. So he's not got a safe 4.
Vijay Singh doing everything that was asked of him. He's left himself an uphill putt for an eagle, and well, even if Tom Lehman lays that putt stone dead, he's still got a lifeline. Third and fourth place will play off tomorrow over 18 holes. The final over 36, and that's the rewards for that. £650,000, the total prize money here at Wentworth. But I think the title has become so prestigious over the years that the players have come from all corners of the world. We've had Japan represented here. We've had a very good American entry. And at the end of it all, they want to be the world match play champion.
There's a lot of prestige about this golf tournament these days, and that only comes with history. I can remember them asking Sandy Lyle about his win at the Players' Championship. But the difference between that was in the British Open, he said, just 127 years.
Well, they followed this match for the last 9 holes with the early exit of Mark Brooks. And nice that Wentworth allow the crowds there along the front of the green. It really does give it that championship effect. That's the way it stands. Very close in the second semi-final. Very one-sided the first one.
Shot there, Vijay.
wonder what Tom Lehman's thinking. Is he going to think, I'll pop this one in to win, or is he thinking I'll roll this up to the hole side and take my chances with VJs?
Well, one thing for sure, if you look at Vijay Singh there, he's walking round the green eyeing his putt up for a 3, because that's his best chance. Both caddy and player having a look from both sides. And Vijay Singh with not really a very difficult putt. It will swing a little to his left, then back to his right. And it's straight uphill. But as you were saying, Lehman's putt's so difficult because the first part of it's uphill, and you have to give the ball enough pace to reach that crest, and then from there it'll amble its way down the green from right to left. Pace vital.
Looks a little speedy. Anything on the left keeps trundling away. And it's by no means dead. It's such a difficult putt from the front of the green to lay it inside that dustbin lid.
Well, if he does get a chance to putt it, it will be from left to right. Nothing to separate them after the first 18 holes, and very little after the afternoon session. Lehman eyes up his second putt, but quite simply Vijay Singh has a putt for an eagle on the last to take the match into sudden death. It bubbled on the join of apron and green. It took the pace off it, and Tom Lehman has a chance to finish it all off.
A little up the hill, good 5.5, 6 feet. A little bit from left to right. VJ's not been conceded. This will take Lehman into tomorrow's final.
Well, he hit it on the high side. Well, the referee has given Vijay Singh's putt, but Tom Lehman hasn't, and maybe the 17th had something to do with that. Now this does have a tiny swing on it from the right, but it is only 12 or 15 inches. And it looks like we're off into sudden death. A very fine four from Vijay Singh. A little unlucky, it has to be said, for Lehman. It was a classy second shot, but it just died on the front half of the green. All square after 18, all square after 36, and we're off up the 37th here at Wentworth. Danger of that, of course, the ball could pop up rather like Vijay Singh's off the edge of the last green. And when it does that, it takes all the sting out of it. Some of the spectators up there on the top left of your screen deciding that the match could be over here. But if it's a half, they'll make their way towards the par 3 second. Come down that much. Well, that's an awkward one, but once again Vijay Singh has a putt for the hole, and this time it will be for the match.
Across the slope, let's have a look how Lehman's ball reacted from that not perfect lie. It seemed to roll very well. Coming nicely off the putter face. As I was saying, a little from right to left, maybe a little bit more than a little, probably 2 or 3 inches outside the right, and a fraction up the hill.
Keep going, keep going. You've got the line. Oh, and it exhausted after its long journey. And Sir Isaac Newton's laws of gravity take Vijay Singh through to the final against Ernie Els. But it took a titanic battle between these two. And Singh birdied the 35th, the 36th and the 37th. And he's a very worthy winner. A match enjoyed by all. And at the first extra hole, Singh books his place in the final to take on Ernie Els. It was there, but only just. That wonderful winning feeling. And what it's done is it's set us up a great final with the power hitters playing round a long Wentworth. The magic of match play. 10-8 for Ernie Els. They had to go to a sudden death playoff for the second semi-final. And as we look at that final, Ken, Ernie Els obviously in great form, and Vijay Singh totally confident in everything he's doing. Difficult to pick a winner.
Very similar games this week, and nothing between them, as you say, long hitters, both of them able to reach the par 5s. It's the first final that Vijay has reached. He lost in the semi-finals to Colin Montgomery, so he'll be looking forward to go one better and put his name on the trophy. But maybe it's going to be 3 in a row for Els. Nothing between them.
Well, if that's the case, Els will become the first player to win in 3 consecutive years. Els going for the hat-trick. Vijay Singh looking for a taste of victory for the first time. Well, thanks very much for staying with us into the closing stages of the semi-finals. We've enjoyed your company, and of course we'll be back here at Wentworth for the final of the Toyota World Match Play tomorrow afternoon. You're having a game tomorrow, enjoy that. We'll look forward to your company for the final. From Ken and myself for now, bye-bye.